The following program was made possible thanks to the generous support of our Kickstarter backers.
Well, first Holmes was born, then he got fat, bald, and tired.
Sup, Holmes?
Beware your host, Jonathan Holmes!
Thanks so much, Sinistar, out in the colds of space. I know what it's like to be cold, too. I'm here in the Boston area. Freezing. It was negative 33. I couldn't even start my car. Negative 33 with wind chill. Whereas you, Mark, where are you right now?
I am extremely jealous because I'm dying of heat in here in Brazil. It's very hot.
Where you are right now in February.
It's 38 Celsius.
And
I don't know how much is. That's like approximately infinite Fahrenheit.
Is that hot enough to fry an egg? As that
if it's in your pocket, it's going to boil.
Good grief! That's incredible. So we're living parallel but very different lifestyles. You making video games, me talking about them. You with a very nice chin strap beard, me with a kind of a dumb stubble. And why is it that you don't have a mustache? I was curious about that.
Yeah, I don't. I'm also jealous not only of your big, beautiful coat, but also of your big, beautiful beard. I can't grow a mustache because if I try to, my beard becomes like a negative Hitler. It grows everywhere except here.
Oh, so not like Hitler in a bad mood, but like the opposite of Hitler, anti-Hitler.
Exactly.
You, sir, what a great thing to be the anti of.
Hair. Yeah, facial hair-wise, at least.
In other ways, too, I'm sure, because you made Chroma Squad, which is a game that is like the opposite of a terrible totalitarian racist society. It is like a
Thank you.
Joy.
That's what we were going for. Thank you.
the anti-Nazi hit of 2013, did it come out? When did that game come out again?
2000 is... Which year is now? I'm a time traveler. Sorry,
I think I thought it was
15.
2 or 3.
Yes,
it was just last year. No,
last year it was
really?
April last year.
Huh? It seems so long ago now because it's been ingrained in my head for a while. It was announced before that, though.
Yes,
right?
Yes, it was announced way before that. We announced in 2013, I guess.
That's what I was probably thinking of. It's been in my head for a little bit. I was a part of a wrestling group called Kaiju Big Battle. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. Strange people. We put on Super Sentai outfits. There's a Super Sentai character in Kaiju Big Battle named Neo Teppen, and I actually sang his theme song in Japanese. I wrote the lyrics in Japanese. My long-winded point is Chroma Squad is the kind of thing that I immediately kind of pay attention to, and it sinks in and stays in my brain for a little bit. But it was it originally called Chroma Squad? I'm remembering that differently.
No, actually, the first time we announced it, it was called Chroma Squad. Behold Studios created the Kickstarter around 2013. It was already Chroma Squad. Before that, internally, we only knew it as Super Sentai. Just that, but it was just a project name.
Sure.
You can't actually call your game Super Sentai.
You cannot.
You cannot. That's Toei's brand.
Oh, so Toei. So Super Sentai, for those who don't know, in Japan, it's kind of a genre. At least I thought it was,
yes,
where it's like
kind of
guys.
Deal, yeah.
They often have motorcycles. They're kind of like ninjas. They're kind of like superheroes. They often have mechanical or mammoths or just men that they're inside of. They form together like Voltron. They fight giant monsters, kaiju, as they're known. So to me, it was a genre, but it's actually a name brand owned by
yes,
Toei, you said.
By Toei Animation, yes.
Huh. And then, if I remember correctly, and one of our viewers wanted me to ask this specifically, Saban, who owns Power Rangers, got in touch with you guys and wanted you to change some things. They thought it was copyright infringement. Is that right? Is that what happened?
Yeah, yeah, that happened. We haven't really changed anything in the game. That was really cool. We're really fortunate to not have made those changes in the game. But what happened was that Saban saw after we were already kickstarted and the game was picking up traction, and we made a deal with them to actually be recognized as Power Rangers inspired title. So in some ways now, Chroma Squad is like a Power Rangers product.
Huh.
So it is, yeah, it is. We had to add inspired by Saban's Power Rangers TN on the logo, and Saban is became our partner in the game.
Interesting. Well, I hope that they end up being more benefit to you than detriment. Sounds like it was, and I'm sure you can't comment on it, but it sounds like it was a little bit of both. It was like them telling you what to do, and them also like lending a hand by allowing you to put Power Rangers on the marquee. It's pretty cool. In fact, I'm betting it could have helped people who don't understand what Chroma Squad is just from looking at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's we're indie developers. Like we like to be alone and do our own things. But as far as this particular situation went, I think it could have been. I could imagine 1,000 things, 1,000 ways this could have been much worse than it was. Like you said, it kind of actually helped a little bit in some ways. I think it was very generous of Saban to offer this deal to us.
Sure. I'd imagine when Nintendo gives a cease and desist to something that looks too much like Pokemon, or they don't just let them say inspired by Pokemon on it. Though, as a fan,
although I just played Micromon and the iPad.
How is it?
It's Pokemon. It's on the iPad. It's great. It's really good. It doesn't say inspired by Pokemon anywhere, but
I wonder if the Pokemon company Nintendo is watching. Were you surprised when you found out Saban even knew you guys existed? They were
we were extremely surprised because we're very small time indies. Especially down here in Brazil, like we have very little contact with the bigger industry. We try to go to GDC every year. We try to stay in touch with our friends overseas. But we are marginalized from the industry most of the time, so we don't really feel like something like this could ever happen. We just never thought we were important enough for that to happen. So it was kind of humbling, actually. It was kind of cool.
That does sound cool. And I'd imagine you might have been surprised as well because Super Sentai, or at least I guess that's copywritten too. I don't know if you knew that before you ended up moving forward with the project. But again, to me, like it's just a genre. And your project didn't look particularly like more like Power Rangers than it looked like Voltron, or it looked like Kamen Rider, or any of these other, or Kaiju Big Battle, the thing I was a part of. It didn't specifically to me look like more or less like Power Rangers than any others.
This is culture, especially in Japan. This is culture. It's like it's in Japan. It's mostly owned by Toei. Like every toku set, every big toku series. Everything that airs on Sunday mornings in Japan, that's all Toei. Like Kamen Rider, the old Metal Heroes, the Super Sentais, they're all owned by Toei. But like I said, there are many different things around the world. Like France, Brazil and France are very interesting cases on this because both in Brazil and in France, we got, when I was a child at least, we had the original Super Sentai series from Japan, they aired here. So we were not watching Power Rangers. We were watching Changeman. We were watching Flashman. We're watching these shows. They were dubbed in Portuguese, and even the songs and stuff like that, they were dubbed in Portuguese. And I think France had a similar situation. And so here in Brazil we didn't, but in France they had the original shows inspired by these Super Sentai shows. As far as we know, Toei never went after them. I think that maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not only not allowed to comment on. I don't even know what I'm allowed to comment or not, because I'm just a designer. I like to make like cartoon people punch monsters. Legalese is not really my area of expertise, but I don't know why these guys get to make their thing, and Chroma Squad had to be associated with Saban. there's probably a good reason somewhere. I just don't know which reason is.
That is so open-minded of you. And as you're talking about it, I'm remembering that the original creator of Mega Man, not Keiji Inafune, somebody else, I'm blanking on his name. I think it was his first name might have been Akira. He recently had an interview translated where he announced that Mega Man was hugely influenced by Changeman. And it was originally going to be called Rainbow Man, and that's why they were all different colors, because it was like the different colors of the Super Sentai team, except it was like a team in one. Like Mega Man was an entire team's worth of power condensed into one robot, and of course
that's amazing. I never would have imagined. Yeah, that's.
I will email you the interview later on so you can read it.
Nice.
So, but when it comes to you, influence, it sounds like those shows you watched growing up in Brazil were a pretty major influence.
Yeah, we're all big nerds. Like, there's an interesting thing about Brazilian culture is that we are very much we get stuff from all around the world. Like Brazilian culture is a mishmash of different things from different immigrants that came to live here hundreds of years ago, but also pop culture. We got access to all of it. So when we were growing up, like sometimes people are surprised to see like why Brazilian games they feel like sometimes American games, and maybe that we're trying to emulate culture or appropriate culture. But the reality of it is that it's our culture. Like I grew up watching Changeman, Flashman, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Dungeons and Dragons. I watched all those shows on the TV when I was a young kid. So definitely the main influence for us was Jaspion, Jiraiya, stuff like that we watched as a kid. Like I had a Jiraiya costume and used to run around the house like with a plastic sword and shit like that. So it's definitely there in Chroma Squad. It's definitely, this fantasy is definitely there.
Huh. Interesting. What do you think it is about Brazil where it sounds like there is very little cultural elitism, cultural snobbery? Growing up for me in the United States, it was a long time before anyone I knew would be willing to watch those Japanese cartoons with their big eyeballs. Like there was so much snooty judgment of any other culture's way of going about depicting the human face, going about any form of artistry. There was a huge amount of xenophobia. It wasn't until I got older that people didn't make fun of you if you like Dragon Ball, and now it's sort of normal. I had all these $80 bootleg VHS tapes of Dragon Ball that weren't even translated. That's how like niche it was, and it was niche because people would judge you if you liked it. But in Brazil, it sounds like there isn't that kind of snobbery.
Yeah, because
like it's more anything goes.
Yeah. My take on it is that we had so many different things from all around the world. They were airing on the same time on TV on every day morning, and they were all dubbed in Portuguese. They were all localized to the point where we didn't know which show came from where. And it didn't really matter. Like every kid in Brazil, they would watch Brazilian-made stuff, like for instance, TV Colosso or Castelo Rá-Tim-Bum, which are big children's shows in Brazil that had a lot of stuff that was produced here, and they aired stuff like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then they aired Dragon Ball, and then they would air something like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And that would be
were there
one
original
show. That would be a single show.
Were any of those shows, forgive my ignorance on this, were any of those like original shows produced in Brazil, or were they all imports?
No, a few of those shows were produced in Brazil, like parts of it. But all the other stuff it was all officially licensed, of course, and dubbed and localized to Brazil. But the thing is, if you were a Brazilian kid, your mornings before you went to school, because most kids, like in the 80s and 90s, we went to school in the afternoon. If you were a kid watching cartoons in the morning, you would see TV Colosso, which was a Brazilian production, and it would have Dragon Ball, and it would have the Ninja Turtles, and it would have the Power Rangers, and it would have the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Dragon Ball and all that shit together. And we didn't know, like Chavez, for instance, which is a Mexican comedy. It's live performance. It's huge culturally in Brazil. Like every Brazilian kid watched Chavez, to the point where it was so very well localized and dubbed that people like me, like I found out that show was Mexican way later. And I remember being a kid, it was super funny because I was watching the show, and there was this part where they were at school, right? And the teacher was talking about like school things, math and stuff like that, okay? But when someone like wrote something on the blackboard, it was all weird. And I get, what's up with that? Why are they writing so weird? And just after I was like 16 or something, that I realized that, hey, this is actually a Mexican show, and it has been translated to Portuguese. It was originally in Spanish. And I think for a lot of kids, they just didn't care. They didn't care. It was just, is the show cool or not?
Right.
That's all that mattered.
And it's taken the rest of the world, or at least it's taken the United States, until the internet has gotten as big as it is now, to take on that kind of acceptance of different shows from different places. No, that's how it is here at this point. It's not strange to like Mexican shows or Japanese shows or whatnot. But for you had a head start on it. And it sounds like you also, from the sounds of it, had an early fascination with like, oh, that's what goes on behind the scenes in the show. They had to like get back in there and dub it, and then being fascinated with the fact that just the dubbing process managed to suspend your disbelief and had you actually convinced that this was a Brazilian show. So was that also part of the influence for Chroma Squad? Because Chroma Squad, for those who haven't played it, it's not just a show about a Super Sentai team. It's about making a show about a Super Sentai team. And it kind of peels another layer back in that way.
Right. And it's funny that you put it this way, because I don't know, you probably didn't know, but before working with games, I work on Brazilian television.
I had no idea. What did you do on Brazilian television?
Yeah. I used to work on the largest Brazilian TV channel here. It's called TV Global. I worked on post-production there. I did post-production coordination for a while there in Global, including Brazilian Kids Show, which is very popular. But yeah, that was before I became an indie dev.
Pretty cool. So did that early fascination with television shows and seeing how they were able to, because it sounds like you were in the post-production, that's when things get fine-tuned and put out to the audience in a way that's really going to affect them and be received by them in a way that works. So has that something that's always interested you?
Yeah, right. So it definitely influenced the way the Chroma Squad was designed, but it didn't influence the way the Chroma Squad was conceived, because I didn't conceive Chroma Squad.
Gotcha.
Chroma Squad was conceived by Behold Studios, by Saulo and the guys there. And I actually backed the game. I was a backer. And I was a friend of them. I knew them for years, right? But after my previous studio my previous studio, Critical Studios, we shipped Dungeonland, and then we closed. And after we closed, Chroma Squad had been Kickstarted like 6 months before. Mm-hmm. And they invited me to be the game designer on Chroma Squad. Wow. So, definitely my previous TV experience helps. And I know that Saulo, the programmer / designer there at Behold, he has a lot of video experience as well. He didn't work with that, but he's a really good photographer, and he really likes to shoot stuff and edit movies and things like that.
Huh, interesting. So maybe to dial it back a little bit, you worked on Brazilian television, then you went indie and worked on Dungeonland? Is that?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
And then you ended up working on Chroma Squad as the designer, though it had already been kickstarted. So I'd presume that there was a designer before you that left, or they were just like hoping they would find it.
They just didn't have a game designer. Like the interesting thing about Behold Studios and that their game before Chroma Squad was Knights of Pen and Paper. which is an awesome game if you haven't played that. It's really cool. And Knights of Pen and Paper is a really small project. Like it took them, I don't know, 5 or 6 months or 8 months, but way less than a year to make the game with a really small team. And when you have like 4 or 5 guys doing a less than a year project, you're used to doing things in certain ways. I'm hearing a lot of noise. I don't know if it's on my end or your end.
Oh, it might be. It's so cold in here.
Oh, it stopped.
Turn the heater off. It stopped? Who
Yeah, it
knows? Wow, could be anything. Wow.
It's Ghost in the Shell. Like I was saying, so they were used into doing things a certain way, but Chroma Squad was suddenly this hugely ambitious project that was probably going to take like 2 years to complete or more, and I just came from Dungeonland, which was a 3-year project with almost 15 people working on it.
Whoa.
So I think it was really, at least coming in, I think the expectation was that I was going to bring this expertise with bigger projects and a different view that would benefit Chroma Squad. Mm-hmm. But honestly, the game was already looking really good before I came in. I just did the best I could to not ruin it.
Was it still, because genre-wise, for people who don't know, Chroma Squad, it's got some storyline, but it's really about tactics. It's about resource management, and it's also about combat. To me, it had almost a Sim City feel to it at times. But of course, it's also got a lot more action than Sim City has. But you have to plan your show and plan your team. Like,
wouldn't it be cool if Sin City like got attacked by monsters from time to time, and it had to defend your Sin City with a Super Sentai squad?
Exactly. That's how it felt for me at times.
Paradox. That's a DLC idea for City Skylines. Please do this.
Is it really?
No, I'm pitching it. I'm pitching right now.
So, was all that stuff in Chroma Squad before you got in there? Was the
yes. Huh. The heart of the game since the Kickstarter has always been making a tactical RPG, and the only thing that changed a little bit was that originally we pitched the game more as a manager, so it was the original vision for the game was half a management game and half a tactical RPG. Mm-hmm. In the end, we got mostly a tactical RPG with very, very light management elements.
Sure. Huh. And were you surprised when the game ended up getting to be pretty well known? Not only did Saban know about it, but it seems like, at least from where I stand, people know what I'm talking about when I bring up Chroma Squad. It seemed to have done pretty well.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like we get a lot of love for the game, and I think that it's, at least for me personally, it was the biggest giveaway I got from working with Behold Studios. From comparing to my time in Critical, is that Behold Studios, they are a team that they're a family and friends first, and game developers and company second, and they do what they do. Mostly, they're really fueled by passion. They don't have very long-term plans. They going into Chroma Squad, it was a little bit disorganized, not in a bad way, but I think it's just Behold Studios just tries to be a studio that lives day after day doing what they like and treating each other nicely. And I think that that kind of love and passion and respect for other people and love for other people and love for fun and silly things, I think that everything that Behold does, it manages to represent this in their game. Like the game is a mirror. The game is like a portal to this lifestyle that Behold has. That's why like Knights of Pen and Paper before it, and maybe all the games that hopefully Behold works in the future, has this feel good element to it. That I think Chroma Squad does so well.
Sure. And it's contagious. When people play it, they get that feeling. And I'm guessing you're contrasting that in part to Dungeonland, which is a very expensive-looking game, pretty-looking game, very well-made game. But was that game made, you think, with the same level of just inspiration and spirit of fun over any sort of planning to just try to make the most money they could, or whatever?
No, it's not that. I think it's in many ways it's the opposite. The culture at Critical Studios was in many ways very different from Behold. I think the main thing, it was never driven by money, not at all. But we were driven by a certain, we want to reach this level of excellence in the stuff that we do. And that was our main target. But we didn't care. Like at Critical Studio, we didn't care if that was possible. We didn't care if we weren't experienced enough. We didn't care if we were pushing people too hard, too far, if we're pushing ourselves too hard, too far. And I think that we ended up making a game that represents that. I mean, Dungeonland it's a game that I'm proud of, but I know it's a deeply, deeply flawed game, if people know that. It's interesting. It's an interesting game. But in the end, what happens is that we didn't take care of ourselves. We didn't take care of ourselves as a family, as friends, as co-workers. And after Dungeonland, we just started. We couldn't go on. And that's Critical Studio had to stop right there. And Behold Studios, on the other hand, they have been it's a victory, I think, partially due to persistence. A lot of talent, of course, but mostly because they stuck together and they kept making stuff. So Knights of Pen and Paper was their first hit. I think it sold more than 1 million units. But before that, I think they made more than 10 games. I don't know for how many years, but I remember reading about them when I was starting my career still. So before I made my first game. Sure. And they were already there. They were already making games. And I think that this philosophy that you put people and you put happiness and you put your well-being first, success will come when it comes. Excellence will come when it comes.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Though it also makes sense that you and your team at Critical Studios were so excited to prove that you could do it, because growing up playing video games, to want to make games as well made as you loved growing up, you must have assumed it's just hard work and tenacity and toughness.
Exactly.
There.
Exactly.
But it ended up being a lot of pain and suffering from the way you described it.
Yeah, it's a classic rookie mistake, right? It's not exclusive to Critical. The main difference is that most studios, they quit. We didn't. We just kept pushing. We kept pushing. And we finished that damn game. We ship it. But yeah, it was hard. It was really hard.
I bet it was. But you did it, and they'll never take that away from you. What do you think some of the flaws are of the game? I'm not deeply familiar with it, but it didn't seem, on the surface anyway, to be flawed in any way. It looks very polished.
Yeah, the thing with Dungeonland is that it is the first game that we ever made. It was the first game that I ever made, and everyone else on my team ever made. So it has a bunch of rookie mistakes that if we had maybe done smaller games before, right, before trying this huge game, so it had all the things that today, when new guys come up to me by email or at a conference or something like that, and they ask me for advice, and I usually tell them to do things, to not do things, and that all of those things we did in Dungeonland. So we made a huge game. It was 3D. It had online. You got to play it had an asymmetrical multiplayer game that nobody had ever seen before, like Dungeon Master mode. Still haven't. Fable Legends is coming out. It looks a little bit like Dungeonland, but since Dungeonland, I haven't seen a game try anything like that, like a full game and all mods and stuff like that, but not a full game. It was way more than we could chew. So it's clunky in places and it's presented badly. That the networking has huge problems, people could not connect for months after release. People could not connect because of NAT punch-through problems, stuff like that we had no experience with. We had never shipped a multiplayer anything before, let alone a big 3D game with a lot of moving parts, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's a challenge that I know developers who've been in the business for 10, 15 years. And you say to them, you want to do multiplayer? And they're like, oh,
hell no.
no way. I like my life. I don't want it to turn into something else. Yeah. Oof, that's
like we didn't know what we were getting into. So that if you're a new developer, like just here's a horror story for you. It's been I think I work almost 3 years in Dungeonland, and it's been over 3 years that it has been released. So in total 6 years that this game has been in my life. To this day, like today, I see tweets like at me or at Paradox or at Critical Studios, which is not even operation anymore, complaining about connectivity. 6 years, and I'm still hearing about server problems. I can't connect, yada yada. So be careful if you want to make a multiplayer game, because you're gonna have to. It's like a child.
Yeah,
you put it in the world, you can never forget it.
A child that makes people mad, and then they call you with the complaint.
Problem child that beats up other children in the playground.
Whereas Chroma Squad seems like people knew what they were getting. Or
it's an adorable child, yeah.
Yeah, and everyone loves it. And if I remember correctly, somebody did ask. I want to make sure I get to it. No, I normally don't get pre-show questions, but people are excited to have you on. Let me see if I can find it. It was Zalno, who's Fairfax Lumbax. He wanted to know if there was the New Game Plus or something about a level editor, maybe changes to the mech fights. Is any of that happening with Chroma Squad?
What happened after we released Chroma Squad? We did a lot of updates, stuff like that, and we got to work in the level editor. We got to work on changes in the mecha fights. We got to work in all that.
Huh?
I currently I'm not working with Behold Studios anymore. I only went there. I wasn't fired or anything. I love the guys. I was only there to design and ship Chroma Squad. So Chroma Squad is now with Behold. I don't know what are their plans. I know they are working on the console versions, but I don't know the dates for that, if they're going to release anything. So sorry, I like those things too. I don't know when Behold is going to do this.
Right. Pretty cool though. I had heard consoles. I can't remember the details. PlayStation.
Yeah, I mean, what I know is that the main reason why Chroma Squad has been quiet for so long was that Saulo, the main programmer on Chroma Squad, he became a father late last year.
Oh,
so,
good for him.
Yeah, he has a beautiful daughter, and he has been focusing on that for a while. And I know that after that, he didn't want to take responsibilities for Chroma Squad anymore. So they hired another guy, a friend of ours, to do the Chroma Squad stuff. But I don't know what's happening, so sorry, ask them. I'm sure they'll be happy to answer you.
Absolutely. So you've worked at Critical, you've worked at that company, but you alone are Rogue Snail Games. Is that right? Right. And you've got a lot of games under your belt. I was shocked, and if I can say so, if I don't sound rude, I was appalled that Relic Hunters 0 did not become a bigger hit. And maybe it was a huge hit, and I just didn't see it that way. But such a beautiful graphic design, great in-game graphics as well. Such a fun concept, and it didn't become huge, or did it? Did it become huge? Have you noticed?
Partly, it's really weird. It's really funny. In a way, Relic Hunters is my most successful game, maybe.
Huh, really?
Because it has right now almost 700,000 unique players.
Okay, so I take it all back. Yeah. That is huge.
No, do not take it, because what I never understood is how can this game have so many players and be ignored by media and overall conversations. For instance, Chroma Squad, we're sitting at around 100,000 copies, something like that. I'm not sure. Around that vicinity. So we have 7 times more Relic Hunters players than we do have Chroma Squad players, right? But on my Twitter feed, I have like a search, a constant search to know what people are talking about my games, right?
Sure.
Chroma Squad comes up on Twitter conversations like 3-4 times more than Rally Counters does.
Huh.
And as far as media goes, like when we were on Greenlight, we got a lot of coverage. Like we got featured on Destructoid a lot. We got featured on other big sites as well. And but after that, nothing. Like when we released the game, nothing. And when we updated the game, nothing. And we released the source code. There were a lot of cool mods. Silence. And we don't like the YouTubers. Like a lot of small YouTubers, they play Rally Counters, but the big ones completely ignored it. So I don't know. It's like it's a underground success, I think. And it's my first thought was that oh, maybe people are just downloading the game because it's free and they're not actually playing it. That was my first thought, right? So I put a Steam stat there to see how many people are getting through the first stage, and turns out that 70% of those people who downloaded the game got through the first stage. So even then, we're looking at over 500,000 players who played at least half an hour or 1 hour of the game. So why it's so quiet? I don't know. It's a mystery.
And it's a fun game. It's not as though there's nothing to talk about. It's not like a lot of people play Candy Crush, but people don't usually, at least at this point, I don't think, get on Twitter and like, yeah, I made the candy explode. Let's talk about it, because it's a simple puzzle game. There's not much to say. But Rally Hunters, there's a lot to it. There's characters. There's some lore. There's a little bit of plot.
We got a lot of. Yeah, we got a lot of like fan art and stuff like that. The game is open source, so we do have a lot of cool mods. We have people on the forums. They are very loyal. They have been there like almost every day for a year now, and they like make mods. They do stuff in the game. The stuff is there, right? But so it's interesting. I think Rally Counters is really interesting because for me, it's my most successful game. Like not only in numbers but also personally. I think that Rally Counters is a very me game. It's like it's for me. I needed to make something for and by myself after Dungeonland, after Critical Studios, to kind of get to kind of feel good about myself as a designer again. So to make sure that hey, I can make good stuff. I didn't make Chroma Squad good just because I was a behold, because they're incredibly talented. And most of the time, I was just trying to not ruin the game, right? So Chroma Squad is definitely the best game that I have ever been credited on. But there was a lot of people there. The game wasn't my concept. I was very happy and very humbled to contribute to the Chroma Squad. But I don't feel like, hey, this game is a success because and only because of me, right? There were a lot of really talented people that are much more responsible for Chroma Squad successes than I am. Sure. So Rally Counters for me was like this comeback, like, hey, I really learned stuff. Like I can really do the things that I know that I'm good at, and people actually like those things. So that was really important game for me in this way. And the fact that it gets so much of this creative response from people, that's amazing. Like we got every time I get a fan art or a cool mod or stuff like that, that's hugely validating for me as an artist, because it's a free game and we don't get a cent out of it, but it's so nice to know that we get to produce culture, that we get to create something that inspires people to create other stuff, and that's just amazing. And that's why for me, Rally Counters, a part of everything else, is my most successful game.
Ah, that's so cool. And was it a large team who worked on it? I'm guessing. No. How big was the team?
It was basically me and Beto, a very dear friend of mine who also worked on Chroma Squad. He's a partner there at Behold Studios. He's one of the artists there. It was basically me and him. We got a lot of help from Rafael Miller, which is a sound designer who works with me. He has worked with me for like 9 years now. Every single game that I have worked on, I have worked on with him. He's very talented. He's done all the music for Chroma Squad, which is amazing. He's done Dungeonland. He's done everything. Yeah, but basically, it's me and Batu with his sound.
Ah, cool. But I would guess that would make it hard or maybe impossible for that to come to consoles, because my guess was the reason why Relic Hunters doesn't get talked about as much as Chroma Squad is simply the fact that Chroma Squad is going to draw in people whom are fans of Super Sentai. It immediately resonates with them, whereas Relic Hunters is existing in this huge PC marketplace now, where it is so hard to stand out and have your game be the one that people are choosing to talk about instead of like 100 other games that probably came out that week. Whereas on consoles, it could potentially stand out a lot more. And in my opinion, it is better than a lot of the games that are on the console storefronts for download.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the consoles today is like Steam was at the time of Dungeonland. Because at the time of Dungeonland, we had Steam as this moderately accessible platform where if you were a really professional developer, you could get a lot of exposure and there would not be like 1,000 titles competing for attention on the same day, right? So it was really cool to be in Steam at that time. But today, Steam is really crowded. And so the consoles, they get this curation, like, it's like a stamp of quality, because it's not that games on Steam don't have quality. Of course they do. It's like every game is on Steam, right? So before, being on Steam was like, it had a curation. It had an intrinsic value that it doesn't have anymore. If that's good or not, that's not for me to decide. Like, there's people much smarter than me at Valve who know what they're doing. But as far as recognition goes, yeah, being on consoles is like this stamp of quality. And you're right, Relic Hunter Zero will not be in consoles first because it's on Game Maker. Game Maker can do PlayStation, I guess. I'm not really sure, but I wouldn't try. I really wouldn't try right now, because it's not. I'm not slamming Game Maker itself. I'm slamming my own code, because the thing is, Relic Hunter Zero, it started as a game gen project, right? So Beto and I, we were making a game for game gen. It was called Epic Game Gen, I think. And I got sick, and I was a coder. So when the coder gets sick, the game is over. Like, you can't make the game. You can make a game without art. It's going to be ugly, but you can't make a game that doesn't happen anything when you click the buttons. So yeah. So and it was the very first time that I had to give up a gen. I got really upset about it, and the game was looking really cool for us. We were having a lot of fun working on it. And Beto and I got together on the other weekend and say, hey, let's finish the gen game. Yeah, let's do it. And then we did another weekend, and another weekend, and another weekend, just because we're having fun. We were feeling good about ourselves when we were working on this game, which is, I think, Relic Hunters has something, I don't know what it is, something that as a creator, sometimes you get in the flow of making stuff, right? So you're doing something and you're feeling good about yourself and feeling good about what you're doing, and you think that it's something that is worth your time. It's something that represents who you are and what you like to do, right? And you feel that sometimes when you're working on some projects, right? With Relic Hunters, it's all the fucking time, and it never stopped. It just never stopped. We kept feeling good about it. The game has something. The game has the soul that spoke to Beto and I, and we were just having fun. And but as this was happening, these were weekends, right? And Chroma Squad was starting to go towards the end of its production cycle, and we were very late, extremely late. So Beto and I, we had to like stop making Relic Hunters, right? We couldn't. Hey, we have to give, like, we either rest on the weekends or we make more Chroma Squad, because if we keep dividing our attention, even if it's just the weekends, it's not going to be a good thing for the rest of the team or for the fans or anything else. So we decided to just release the game for free, the way it was. We knew we could not support the game fully the way we like to support a commercial release, right? Because when Chroma Squad got out, we were very worried about updating the game, keeping the technical problems at bay, listening to people, making free new stuff and stuff like that. And we didn't know if we could do that in Relic Hunters. So we thankfully we were at a position financially where we didn't need to sell Rally Counters. Like, we're doing okay, thanks to Chroma Squad, thanks to other projects we had, and we were in a position to, you know what, let's release this for free. It's we made it because we like it. It didn't have a marketing plan, didn't have a business plan, didn't have anything. Let's just release this thing. And the thing is that as we were wrapping up to release, we felt like we had to do more. We had to do more. So that's what we're doing. So since we release it, we plan to get together in the next year, which is now this year, right? Mm-hmm. To do more of it. Do maybe another game.
Wow.
So what we're doing right now, yeah. So we do a completely new Relic Hunters game.
Really? Is it going to be Relic Hunters 1? Like the one after 0?
You don't know how many times I heard that one.
I bet. That's the place.
Not that you're on original.
Yeah, I lose that round. But I'm going to give you a little bit of feedback on how it sounds, because I was, as you were speaking, I was trying to form together and make sense of my world, as I'm usually trying to do. And I think what might have happened with Relic Hunter 0 is people were like, there must be a trick here. I'm not going to talk about this game because no one just like makes something good for free. There's always a catch. There's always like, oh, it's actually, putting cookies in your computer and stealing your social security number. Or, oh, we forgot to tell you that every 10th time you play this, an ad pops up, or blah, blah, blah. Like it actually was just a piece of goodwill and trying to share fun with people. And I'm guessing at the game blogs and the YouTubers and the audience as well, who they're afraid to talk about it because they may be thinking, oh, well, I'm accidentally going to lead somebody into a trap because this is too good to be true. This can't actually just be a free lunch. This can't actually just be complimentary cookies for no reason. But it is. It's free cookies. Yeah. The game.
Yeah, we got a lot of that. Like, I remember the first week the Rally Counters was out, there were a few haters. And some of the arguments were really weird. They were worried about the game having paid DLC or having microtransactions later on, and they were worried a lot of stuff like that. And it took us quite a while to diffuse those people. Like, there was one particular guy that was really interesting because he made one of the very first reviews of Red Counter Zero. It was a negative one. It was usually popular, and he was like calling us out on like we were scammers or something like that, right? So it took a lot of patience, a lot of love, a lot of like good humor to diffuse the guy, right? Because, and I don't blame him. I mean, we have a problem, and in Chroma Squad we had that as well. We had a problem in the industry, I guess, as an industry, because we have a history of treating our customers like shit. And I think that we have our most precious users, like our early adopters, those guys that they read the Structoid every day, right? They know everything that's happening on the industry. They're really wise about their choices. They have really good taste in video games. Those people, they got super, what's the word in English?
Burned?
When they're very suspicious.
Oh,
yeah,
cynical,
like
maybe.
Yes, we made them cynical, right? It's not their fault. It's we treat our customers like shit, and sometimes not because we want to, but just because making video games is really hard. So, for instance, Dungeonland, like a lot of people got really angry at Dungeonland, even though it was made like with heart. And I assure you, I came out of that game like with not a single cent in my pocket. But even then, there are lots of people were burned with the game because it didn't work properly, because we promised things that in the end we didn't deliver, because people would buy the game, and at the time Steam did not have easy refunds, right? So people bought the game and they bought with a friend, and they emailed me and they said, hey, me and my friend bought this game, we're super excited to play on the weekend, but we can't connect to each other no matter what we do. And we look at it and we look at each other and we say, these guys, they are never going to be able to play with each other unless we recode the entire game from the ground up. And that hurts. That really hurts. And I had to tell the guy, hey, I'm really sorry. If you want money back, I can like personally transfer the money to you, because it really hurts to know that you wanted to play the game that we made. We spent 3 years making this game, and you can't play it, and you have every right to be angry. And later we tried to rescue the game, and Paradox was trying to rescue the game because they believed in the ideas, that they believed in what we were trying to do. And our plan at the time was do a lot of microtransaction shit. I don't know why. I don't know what Paradox was trying to do. I know it wasn't just a financial decision. Paradox at the time was experimenting with a lot of stuff. Remember that we're speaking of a Paradox that was just recently released in Magica. So it was a Paradox that was slowly transitioning away from just doing strategy games and trying to do different stuff, right? They signed a bunch of games alongside Dungeonland. At the time they did many other games like us that were out of their comfort zone, right? So that burned people even more. And so we as an industry, we have this history of treating our customers like shit and offering bad services and changing plans and fucking customers. Sometimes because we don't know better, because making games is really hard, and we're not always open enough about it. We're not always honest enough about it. And but also because of like these really big corporations that are trying to make money in a super volatile industry that is super cutthroat, super hard, and they have to cut all these corners, or at least they think they do, and they end up treating the customers like shit. So when you release a game like Chroma Squad, for instance, Chroma Squad, we had to put up an NDA in our very last beta, because we released for our backers the beta with the full game from start to finish. But it was really buggy and really unpolished, but we had to have them play it because we needed help to make sure that the game released, polish it, and without bugs, right? But we were really worried that people would have spoilers, because we were making change to the story and stuff like that. So we put up an NDA, and we said, hey guys, here's the beta, here's the whole game. Please do not record, please do not post anything online during this month. After that, you can do whatever you want. You can monetize the videos, you can do whatever you want. There were a lot of people with like instant conspiracy theory. Like, hey, these guys are late. Hey, Saban join in, and they don't like the game anymore because of Saban. And they just want to cash in, and they want to release a shitty game. And they don't want the world to know that they're going to release a shitty, buggy, shit game. Wow. And that was really tough. Like, we had to really, like, not me, like I was neck deep on making the game good. But we had G, for instance, who was like we call him our hate manager there at Behold Studios. He's the best hate manager I have ever seen. Like, he went in the forums and one by one answered all the questions and made people like, hey, this is not it. It's because of this. It's because of that. It's super hard to do that. Oh, sure. And it's only necessary to do that because we as an industry have been treating our customers like shit over and over and over. We haven't been honest. We have been delivering faulty products. We have been advertising products that are not really what they are after they get hands on them. And that's what we get. That's what we get.
I want to ask more about the point you make about the honesty, because the other parts, you already did a beautiful job of explaining why things may fall apart, because the developers have big ideas, but then it turns out then they don't know until it's too late that they can't actually follow through with their ideas, or it's a big company that ends up cutting corners, and there's so many people involved they don't actually see the big picture on how it's going to.
Yeah, they're honest mistakes.
Yeah, but the honesty. Speaking of that, though, the honest mistakes. But there is a lack of transparency in this industry in general. Yep. And video game blogs, people are very upset about video game blogs not being transparent. And to this day, people are like, I don't think I trust video game blogs to me pretty regularly. And I want to get to the bottom of why you think it is that being honest has been something that game developers, game publishers have maybe been afraid to do. Or do you think so?
I think it's an chicken and egg problem because there's a real risk and downside to being completely transparent, which is that you're also open to having all of your mistakes and all of your errors as a human being exposed, right? So I think it's easier when you're smaller. So when you're a team like Behold, we can be ourselves. We can talk openly about everything that we do and everything that we think, except someone. And we get to be ourselves. Sometimes this backfires, right? Even in such a small team. Sometimes we're all human beings. Sometimes we get pissed off in the internet. So we say something nasty on a comment section, or we promise something that we choose later that is not that important. And people know that, they see that, and they get angry. And it's a really delicate balance, I think, because when you're an entertainer, it's like, have you watched that show about hacking? It's I forgot the name. It's what's the name? It's an amazing show about hacking.
Really? It's a documentary or it's fictional?
No, it's fictional. It's really good, but the name has completely escaped my mind right now. I watched the whole thing. I can't remember which is. No. It's not Black Mirror. It's a show about hackers. I forgot. I'll remember eventually. Somebody in the chat maybe can remember which show it is. It's hugely popular. It's Mr. Robot. There you go. It's Mr. Robot.
Yeah. I've heard all about it, but I haven't seen it yet. A lot of people say it's so I've heard. So yes, on the topic.
So and Mr. Robot, it's not a spoiler. Don't worry. Someone says that the problem with defending against hackers is that you, as a defender, you have to be strong everywhere, while the hacker, he must only be strong in one place, right?
Sure.
So he only has to exploit a single weakness that you have. And that's the problem of security in computer systems. And that's also the problem of security when you are a public figure. So when you are a company, you're a person making video games, or anyone like a person who has a blog about video games, you are exposed to this plethora of anonymous people, and you have to be strong everywhere. If you make a single mistake, the haters just have to be strong in that place, right? Just have to hate you in that particular place. So it's scary. It's really scary, to be honest. It's really scary to be transparent. And I think that the more people that you have, the harder it is for you to be open. Because, for instance, let's say you're Bungie. You make Destiny. So Destiny is an amazing game. I love Destiny. But it's also a very troubled game, not only in its development, but also release. And it's very controversial, right? And there's hundreds and hundreds of super talented people at Bungie. And imagine if they were 100% transparent. Like, you just needed one guy from Bungie who was having a bad day to say something completely crazy, and that would throw this billion-dollar business in jeopardy, right? That would put, like, it's insane. It's insane. So the risks involved, they're huge. And I think that what has to happen is that us smaller guys who can do this, we have to do this. We have to be brave. We have to try and be transparent, to try and say we're sorry when we do screw up, because we are going to screw up, because it's our responsibility to show to the customers and to the bigger companies that you can do that. And if more people do that, the customers themselves, they will get less cynical. And you won't have that problem where it only takes one guy at Bungie to throw the shit in the fan for $1 billion franchise, right?
I think once the standard changes, and I think you're 100% right that if it changes, it's going to come from people such as yourself. I think Notch, creator of Minecraft, has changed the culture a little bit, where people are actually treating the creators of video games as people, and in doing so, judging them by the standards that you would a human being, as opposed to the standard of a multi-million-dollar company that's supposed to be perfect. Because right now, if somebody at Bungie says one little thing, it's going to be like the only thing Bungie has ever done in terms of a PR mistake, and it's gonna the focus on it is gonna be
Huge,
laser, and it's gonna look huge because anything you focus on looks really big. But if everybody's screwing up all the time and saying stuff that's stupid, then and that's just normal. It's like, oh well, human beings said words. It's not that big of a deal. And the people who apologize will look good by comparison, and people will hopefully, and if they're genuine apologies, then people will care about them. And then the companies who actually are filled with jerks will just not do as well, which is, in my opinion, maybe okay. I want good games to do well, but at the same time, if people don't want to support games made by people they don't like, I get that too. So,
it's great. I think this is the only good side from the cynicism that gamers sometimes have towards games, is that we as an industry, we tend to select games based on the character of the people who are making them. And that's really rare. That's really rare. You rarely hear in movies or books about, hey, don't buy this book or don't go watch this movie because this guy is a slime bag. This is really rare. Even if the most aficionados, you do get like a Orson Scott Card is this, so don't read that. But it's only the extreme cases, right? In video games, like, if you treat our customers bad, the customers aren't wise enough. And I think this is a sign of change. It's a positive thing, especially because the industry is always changing so much, and it's always so easy to, not always willingly, but it's always so easy to do evil shit. Like, if you have a free-to-play mobile game, it's very easy for you to, like, wreck someone's life because of a credit card bill, something like that, And it's sometimes it isn't willingly. It's something that we're explorers. We're discovering this. It's really young. It's really new, and it's a form of expression that has come to its adolescence in the information age. And that's really unique because everyone gets the front seat to watch it grow and watch it mature. We didn't get that with cinema. We didn't get this with other forms of expression, which is they were restricted to really small circles, not only in terms of development, but also in terms of who enjoy those things in those very early stages, right? So video games still like in its adolescence, but it's being discussed and ripped apart and seen by everyone in the world at the same time. It's global culture. So like Rally Counter Zero, for instance, we get on Steam, we get a really neat list that tells us how many downloads we got from different countries, right? It went on and on. So countries in Africa, in Asia, in places that I have never dreamed about, and that I would probably never going to be able to visit in a lifetime. There were always at least one person there who played and enjoyed my game. And when you think about that, it's just this small game that nobody talks about, right? So when you make a big game like an Assassin's Creed game or GTA game, that's global culture. That's something that's being watched and played and discussed and built and modified by billions of people around the world for decades, right? And that's huge.
Yeah, and the people making these games largely are just a big question mark, which can cause the cynical amongst us to assume the worst, that they're all a bunch of jerks. If you show just how big of a jerk you are, and then apologize when you make a mistake, then people may learn to trust you. And it sounds like that's a lesson you've learned from Dungeon Land and from other things too, which gives me all this optimism for your future. I'm so excited about your future. That's going to be really good. And what are you working on now? You're going to do more Relic Hunters. But there was something new you were talking about. What was that?
Yeah. We are going to release a game. It's a small game. It's called Star Vikings. We're going to release it in May if everything goes as planned.
You and who?
Me and a lot of people who used to work with me at Critical Studios.
Cool.
Yeah, this game has a really interesting story. Not the game itself. The game itself is just a silly story, but the development of this game has a really interesting story.
Huh.
It's a game that in many ways it demands to be developed. It forced me to develop it. It's really interesting.
Really?
Yeah, it all started at Critical Studio just after we released Dungeonland. So we released Dungeonland, and the game at first is a huge success. Huge success. We sold more copies in day one than Magica did, which
Really?
was like, yes, it was amazing. Like Paradox was super excited. We were super excited. We thought the future was bright and full of like cars and cocaine. No, sorry, but we thought that it was going to work out just fine.
Yeah.
And then it did. Like our sales graphics are something like huge spike, roller coaster to the bottom.
Oh no.
And yeah, mainly because I think the technical issues,
Sure.
and also a lot of like the product itself, like it promised more than it could deliver. I think that was it. So
Sure.
we got a lot of excitement from people, and then it just died down because
Mhm.
people realized it wasn't what it looked like.
Sure.
And what happened is we had this. I don't know if I can talk. I probably can't talk about that.
Yeah.
Paradox Online. We had a contract with Paradox to do other stuff in Netherlands, right? Even other game, and we're working on those stuff. And due to several different reasons, everything got canceled, right? And so we just sat there with this huge office in Rio, where I live at the time. We had a whole room of a building there in Rio. We had 12 people like employed. Some who had just had kids, something who were just getting married, like they're trying to build their adult lives at that time. And suddenly we had all that structure and all that cost per month, and we had no project. So we say, hey, we have to do something because otherwise we're screwed. So the plan was, okay, Mark needs to design a game. Okay, I will design a game. So they gave me around 3 months to come up with a working prototype for Critical Studios' next game, so that we could pitch it around and try to get an investment and stuff like that. And during that time, the rest of the team was there, and we could do nothing, like with all those people. And what happened was that I had this weekend project, right, that I was making. It was called Adventure Company. And it was just this mobile game. The idea was that I wanted to make a mobile game for me to play when I was like commuting or in the bathroom, like something quick, easy, but that on the same time it respected my intelligence and it respected my time and my money. So that was the idea. But it was a weekend project. Like it wasn't a Critical Studio 15 people kind of game. And so they took that game and said, hey, let's get that game of yours. Let's make it in these 3 months and let's release it while you're working on the prototype. We'll say, okay, that sounds like a good idea. So they did just that. And I was working on our next game, which was going to be like a completely different from Dungeonland, which is an interesting story on its own. But it's a story for another day maybe. But as I was working on this new game, the guys were making this weekend game, right? Which they completely changed. And they called it was a game called Adventure Company. It was this puzzle RPG about a party of adventurers going down a dungeon, right? Very creative. So they took that and they replaced the adventures with Vikings in space, and they replaced the orcs with snails, and it became a game called Star Vikings against the mutant snails. Yeah, it was really weird. It was really cool. But Critical Studio was not used to making small mobile games. So their process wasn't optimized. So in 3 months, they made this hugely polished, super good looking one scene. Basically, that could never make a game like that, complete game in that level of quality in 3 months. It was impossible. They made something that was too much production value for the time and the product, right? So we just sat there and we wasted those 3 months. We never released the game, And we got to work on this new game, right, which was bigger. It was more of the caliber of game that we're used to work with. And that game just sat there. And around 8 months later, Critical Studio closed. We decided whether we got a deal. We got some deals, actually, for this game, this new game, that was never announced, never emerged. We got publishing deals for it, but we were just tired. We looked at each other and we said, hey, we're starting again from scratch with no money. We had to do it all over again. It's not worth it. Let's stop here because we're going to kill ourselves if we do it again. Something's wrong. This is not how game development should be. And we decided to stop. And when that happened, I said, hey, can I have my game back? And they said, sure, here it is. And they gave me this game that I had barely any part in. I just designed the original game, which they completely changed without my involvement because I was totally focused on that other game, right? And there it was, Star Vikings. And as Critical Studio closed, me and a coder from Critical, Kyle, we said, hey, do you want to keep working on this? Because it looks fun, and we're unemployed, so why not? And we kept working on it. And we worked on it for about 4 or 5 months, and we plan to release it in like 2 months after that. And that's when Chroma Squad happened, and I went to work on that. So Star Vikings got put on hold again. And probably never to be heard of again, ever again. So, and there it was. But the other year, and that we're talking about a game that it's if I release it in May, it's going to be almost 4 years in the making because of this type of stuff, right? And I forgot about it. There it was, sitting there on my folder. And one day we heard about this government aid for video games, right? They wanted to fund a game, and it was a very substantial amount of money for indie. And I was excited. I said, hey, this is a huge opportunity. What can I do with it? And Rally Counters did not exist at that time. And Chroma Squad was at a point where I had designed basically all the systems, but I needed a lot of the coding work to be done before I could come in and do more iteration and tune and do the other design stuff that needed to be done. So I was having like an idle time on Chroma Squad at that time. So I said, maybe I could come up with a new game to show them and maybe do that after Chroma Squad is done. And then, hey, Star Vikings, why not, right? It's all done. It looks good. Let's do it. And then it didn't win. It didn't win. It was and it was a good money. It was like 50K reais, right?
Wow.
And it didn't win. And I was like really bummed. I had wasted a lot of time like coming up with the pitch and all the plans for the game. Let's say, hey, it's not to be. This game is like cursed. I will never do it. I'm probably gonna come up with something else. And then, okay, 1 month later, to everyone's surprise, came up another government project like this, and not for 200,000 reais.
Really?
Like four times more, yes, 4 times more. And all the major cool projects had just received the previous one, so they could not run again. So the coast was clear for Star Vikings to shine and pick up 200,000 reais. And that's what happened. And it picked up the government aid. And I say, hey, I guess I get to make this game. I have, okay, I will. So looking back, it's really interesting. Like this game was never supposed to exist. It was never supposed to leave the prototype folder of my computer. But through a series of mishaps and really interesting opportunities, it just kept growing and kept growing and kept like winning. Like okay, I mean, we have to work on that now, right? What else do we have to do? And there it is, and it's almost releasing. And the fun thing is, my girlfriend, she's a really big fan of the game. She says it's the best game I have ever made.
Really? Cool.
Which, yes, she loves the game. And I get really confused because I think, oh, yeah, it's okay, I guess. And I don't know how to sell it. I really don't know how to market this game. I don't know. It's like I try to picture it as an old PopCap game. At the time, the PopCap was cool, right? When they did stuff like the first Plants vs. before EA killed their souls.
Sure.
The time they did Plants vs. Zombies, the first one, they did Insane Aquarium, they did Fego, they did the first Bejeweled. They were really cool. Bookworm Adventures. Like George Fan is one of my personal idols as far as design goes. I think he's one of the best in the business. And I was really inspired by the kind of stuff that he does to do this game. But I don't know how to sell this game in 2016 on Steam, right? I really don't. Talking to some of my friends about it, we said, wouldn't it be funny if in the end, this game that you didn't even want to make in the first place sold a lot? Like, yes, it would be. Because frankly, I'm being 100% honest with you. I expect this game to sell less than 1,000 copies.
Really? No.
Star Vikings? Yes, like my plan. Yeah, I have a financial plan for 2016. Like, because when you're indie, you have to plan really far ahead because you have this bunch of money in your account. And if you don't think like, okay, if I spend this much, this, like, when do I become a bum? It's so you have the bum counter is a reality for all the indies out there. If you're indie, you know what I'm talking about. Probably call it differently, but every indie has the bum counter, which is when do I become a bum? And when taking the bum counter into account, I expect less than 1,000 copies for Star Vikings because I really don't know how to sell this game. I really don't expect people to pick it up and buy it. It would be really funny if it did. It would be an interesting, like, it will wrap up the story really nicely, I guess.
Yeah, it sure would. The bum counter concept, before we move away from it, do you think that Chroma Squad, you walked into Chroma Squad, a lot of this was already designed, but one of the things that interests me about Chroma Squad is it is kind of like running a team, which you'd have to do in order to make a game like Chroma Squad. It almost
Chroma Squad is extremely self-biographical.
Really?
Extremely, yes, it is. A lot of stuff in Chroma Squad is taken directly from our experience as indie developers, and as we were making Chroma Squad itself.
That is so cool. That was my guess. But okay, so now that we've established that, thank you for the insight. Star Vikings. I'm trying to. Such an interesting relationship you have with this game, as you've already described.
Yes.
Where it's like it survived, and you liked it back when it was called Adventure Company, but only enough to like play for yourself. Then it became something that's like not even totally yours. Like the idea.
It's not even a. Yeah, it's out of control. Is it so? The game is my master. It like whips and say, develop me. I say, okay, I guess.
And somehow it survived and rose to the top. So there must be something to it that caused it to win the grant and also in your mind be the go-to project for, well, like, I'm not sure how I'm going to apply for this grant or what I'm going to do next. Oh, well, I still got Star Vikings in that folder. So there is something to it. But you don't know how to
relationship. Yeah, it's an interesting relationship because I don't know how much of that is because the project itself has some value in it that pushes it forward, or it's just luck because it was always the right project at the right time, right? I did not have, when Critical needed a small game to work on, I did not have anything else to show, just that. When we left Critical and I needed something to work on, I did not have anything else that was already like near completion, right? That I could quickly turn them into money. And when the government came in, I did not have another project that had art in it, that had logos and videos that I could pitch. So it was opportunity. And I don't know, it was kind of destiny, I guess.
I wonder, you can't actually brand the game as being part of the Destiny series, though, even though it was made by Destiny. That would help us sell,
probably.
For sure. Yeah,
that didn't work with Sabon. I wouldn't try with Activision.
So how does it play? Maybe because I want to help you market it. Not that you're asking for the help.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
it's really weird.
Yeah. What is it?
Really weird.
Yeah.
It doesn't play like anything you played before. It's really weird. It's a puzzle RPG. If you look at a screenshot of it, It kind of looks like Plants vs Zombies. You have like these lanes, and you're seeing the characters sideways. It looks like Plants vs Zombies, but it's actually you move like a roguelike, like you have different characters, and you move them on this board, and the board just reacts to you. It's not turn-based in the sense that you move, they move, right? It's you move, the world reacts. And you have to make like these chain reactions with the enemies and the traps and your own skills to succeed and advance. And it's all randomly generated, so there are not puzzles. There are I don't design them. I just design the algorithm that creates the puzzles. And it's a really weird game. I can't say, hey, it's just like Game X with Game Y, and that makes it really hard for me to sell it because. It's weird. Yeah.
Coming out in May, tablets, phones, computers, is it coming out on all the things?
It's coming out on Steam first because it's what we're most comfortable with. And after the game is like polished and running well and stuff, is going to go tablets and phones.
Cool. So a lot of the show we talked about honesty and talked about being transparent with your audience. I wonder, like, I would love for you to explain the story of Star Vikings in a trailer, in a marketing trailer, and an email that was just like a cartoon of your face saying like, I can't even believe this game got made, you know, and then cut to the game, then cut back to cartoon Mark being like, I kind of like it, cut to the game, cut back to Mark. My girlfriend says it's the best game I ever made, but I didn't even come up with the Star Vikings part. Cut back to the game, cut back to Mark, like, I hope you like it. I'm only expecting it to sell 1,000 copies. Star Vikings.
Best pitch ever. If that doesn't sell 1,000 copies, I don't know what will.
Because I mean, I haven't played the game, but in theory, I don't see why it couldn't become the next Plants vs. Zombies. Like, I don't know how they eventually sold that. Zombies were marketable. It was in the right place at the right time in terms of the phone market and whatnot. But
they were PopCap, right?
No, they're super good. But at the same time, it's not like there's an easy hook that you can say, oh, I can guarantee that Plants vs. Zombies is going to do super well. To communicate why it's fun isn't totally simple. Same with Star Vikings, sounds like. But it could happen. Speaking to people in a genuine way, I like to think it works sometimes. Maybe this time it will. It'll be fun to see what happens. And more Relic Hunter Zero. Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes.
And I wonder, do you think it'll come to consoles somehow? I know what you've done so far, maybe not, but yeah.
That's a dream. Yeah, definitely. I think it's a game that will be right at home on consoles if it gets made the way we want it to.
Sure. So for people who haven't played Relic Hunter Zero, you can just get it for free right now. No strings attached, no secret trap where you end up having to like pay a penny for the rest of your life once a week. It is an actual nice free thing that you can check out. And why wouldn't you at this point? And also Chroma Squad, it's still out there. It's an awesome thing. What a fun, interesting game. I should have asked you if you guys or if the Chroma Squad team, which you're still connected to, want to do some sort of Kaiju Big Battle crossover. It's kind of an
that would be really cool.
Yeah, they're fun people.
That would be really cool.
I still know some of them. They've got DVDs out. They're like going to do a wrestling match in New York City pretty soon, so they've got their own clout of sorts. Could be a perfect fit. All right, we'll talk about that via email. We have 1 minute left.
Let's do this.
Yeah, it'll be fun. But before that, Mark, where can they find your things on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at Mark Venturelli. And you can find my stuff at roguesnail.com. I'm also at Facebook and stuff like that. So yeah, like he said, download Relic Hunters. It's free. It's open source.
It really is. The art is so good.
Stuff.
Oh, I'm looking at the art right now. There's a little blue guy with a guitar. There's a green girl with a Gatling gun. What beautiful art design. Was that your friend who worked on it?
Yeah, Beto. Yeah, he's amazing. I wish I could show you the new Relic Hunters, but it's very soon. I'm gonna hold on to that a little bit more, but it looks just amazing. Beto is just amazing artist.
I'm very excited to write about it on my .com, destructo.com. As for me, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at TronNauts on there. And you can watch the show later on YouTube, youtube.com/SupHolmesShow. You can listen to it on Libsyn and iTunes. I think we're heading towards episode 180. We're close to it. The show's been going on for a bit. I'm happy to do it. Somebody was telling me it was inspiring the other day. It was very kind of them, whoever said that. So I guess that's it for this episode. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.